Hey folks, thanks for tuning in. Brad here again, about to talk about 5 things that I actually kind of don't like about my Honda Clarity. Now don't get me wrong, I know most of the time, if you've seen any of my other videos, I'm usually about 100% all on when it comes to this thing, because I think it does a really good job of what it's supposed to do and why I bought it. But in the spirit of, call it objectivity or fairness, I thought it reasonable that I do a video on kind of 5 things that I'm not quite fond of when it comes to this car. So if you're interested in that, hey, I'd invite you to stick around, tune in, and you'll see what they are. Alright, so the first thing I'm not too fond of about this car, I can actually tell you about from my kitchen table here, simply because it actually doesn't have to do with the car itself, and it's ultimately not a fault of the car itself either, but the fact that it is not a full-range electric-only EV like a Model 3. Of course, it's not terribly fair for me to say that, but in the end I believe Honda is in the engineering business, and they could be well on the way to producing an EV of a similar range to the Model 3. And I am aware that I think it's in Oregon or California. I think California ultimately is, they do have a full EV model, which is great, but unfortunately it's not available where I live, which is here in Canada, and nor does it have the range of a Model 3. I think it has about 130 mile range perhaps. If anyone knows that, please comment below. I'd love to know more about it actually. I haven't done a ton of searching on it simply because I wasn't really available. It's not available where I want to be. So anyway, I suspect, however, that in the next 5 years or so, I'm sure Honda will come up with a longer range, full range EV that will be available everywhere, like the Model 3. You know, now that Model 3s are ramping up Model 3 production, I'm starting to see an awful lot of those on the road, which is really cool. And I can't quite afford one yet, but it's certainly going to be the next car I buy for practical purposes like this. So anyway, that's the first thing I'm not terribly fond of. Please throw your comments below as to whether you think it's fair or not. Like I say, I don't think it is really, but you know, it's still something that I think about. For the remainder of these, we're going to go out to the car. So I hope you stuck with me this long, and please stick with me for the rest. Thanks so much. So the second thing that kind of annoys me about this car is actually a consequence of something that I actually quite like. This kind of cool gear shift flying bridge thing is pretty cool. You know, it's pretty common. I guess it's actually in the NSX, which is kind of cool. It kind of removes the confusion of you know, some of the cars like Priuses and things like that, they don't make a lot of sense. I think it's a bit strange that no one's really standardized on the still automatic, you know, PRND park brake kind of thing to remove some confusion. So that thing is actually what I like. But what I don't like is the consequence is that the storage bin thing under here and the access to the USB ports is kind of awkward under this thing. Now, you see there's a power outlet over here. That's the 12-volt plug-in. There's a 1.5 amp plug here where we got my iPad or my iPhone charging cable plugged in, and then there's a 1 amp on this side over here, which is cool. But when you plug these things into the in there, only the 1.5 amp will actually play Android or Apple CarPlay. So I'll actually, since I have my phone here, let me demonstrate that. I'll put you down for 1 second. Okay, there, so I plugged my phone in, and as you remember, it's the one on the left side, the 1.5 amp charger. Now, unfortunately, the light's not too good here. Sorry, folks, but even just using the screen, you can see that it's there. The one on the other side will come up, it will show up, let's see, here, as a, either a Bluetooth, actually it will show up as an iPod, of course, forgive me, of course it'll show up as Bluetooth as well. So you can still play, like if you did have an iPod, a good old school iPod, you could still play it from that, and it would charge at 1.0 amps, and that's cool. But you cannot use Apple CarPlay, which I have in my case, with that USB port. And it's all cool, but man, it's just, you know, you're driving down the road, if you're with your kids and they want to switch phones or something like that, or you're trying to find whatever it is you have down there, which, you know, me being a dad, I've got actually lots of stuff there. It's kind of a pain. So is it life-threatening? Of course it's not. It's not life-changing, but it's you know, it's a consequence of having this kind of cool bridge here, and then this cubby underneath, which, you know, is better than nothing. But as a girlfriend of mine said, you certainly can't put your purse there, which is not something I considered. And there's really no other place for a purse over here. It's got the standard cup holders too, which is cool. They're height adjustable, which is also cool. And then you have your cubby thing here. Now, of course, I'm a dad, so I always have other Kleenex or toilet paper in the car just in case. It's not terribly deep, but again, you can't put a purse there or anything other than that, and you certainly can't put it under here. So you know, you have to have other options. And you know what else there isn't a place for? If you have to do if you do tolls, or you have to pull out your credit card while you're driving down the road. I do this when I park at the airport all the time. There's no place to put your credit card or that parking receipt, so it doesn't slide around. You know, my Prius had a slot just above the just below the driver's side vent, and it was really convenient. Again, this car's got lots of other great things about it, but this is just a minor inconvenience when it comes to storage. So you know what, that brings me to the end of number 2. I'll get on to number 3 here shortly. You know, as conclude this part, you know, let me know if I'm full of crap. You know, again, nitpicking kind of to find this stuff, but you let me know. So the third thing that drives me a bit batty about this car, and I know it might immediately look like I'm nitpicking, but this thing has the smallest windshield washer fluid bottle ever. Reservoir, whatever you want to call it. I mean, honestly, I use this thing like 3 times, and where I live we get snow and ice and all the rest of that stuff. He's like 3 times, and lo and behold, the low fluid light comes on, and I swear to God, it holds, it seems like half a gallon. Like, it seems like nothing. So I'm going to show you folks that, so you can actually see what I mean. And yeah, is it a huge problem? No, it isn't. But you know, again, you use it like 3 times, and then suddenly you're like, oh Christ, I got to keep a bottle of that stuff with me. Which, if you're organized or not organized like myself, that's occasionally a problem. So let's go to the front of the car and I'll show you exactly what I mean. 3. And you know, hey, for those of you who don't know where it is on Honda Clarity, this is where the windshield washer reservoir is. So I want to do this all in one continuous shot so you could actually see that all I did from the last shot was simply climb out of the car, get my handy dandy bottle of windshield washer fluid that the label fell off. So yeah, I know it's fluid. And you'll actually see how little it takes and how much is left in this damn bottle after I fill it. So here we go, a high action shot. This is the big YouTube moment. I know, folks, it's pretty compelling, but you know, honestly, I love this car, but driving this thing in the winter, this is a bit of an inconvenience. I guess I can, all the time I save being at the gas station, I guess I can spare a little bit of it here, but honestly, let's see, we gotta be getting there. See, like, I'm gonna get 3 fills out of this tiny jug. And I think it was one of my dad's old BMWs that had, I think it had a 5-liter reservoir. So this thing has like a 1-liter reservoir. So German cars, I guess they presumed they would drive in winter in winter conditions. So anyway, honestly, that's it. The thing takes like a liter. I'll use it 4 or 5 times, then it'll need to fill it again. Good thing I have this thing sitting right here. So that's number 3, folks. Tune in here. Stay tuned for the rest. So the 4th thing that I'm not terribly fond of in this car, now I bought the touring model, which, you know, I think if you've seen any of my other videos, you've heard me talk about what it includes, you know, the leather seating and all that stuff, and that's all cool, but I was surprised, even with the touring model, that I don't have power seats. Now, my oldest child will sometimes drive this thing. Where I live, you can be a learner at 14. So that's the only minor annoyance. You know, if someone else drives your car, you don't have a memory and you gotta move the thing here and there. A couple of cars I've had before obviously have that, and that's kind of cool. But I was surprised that the top model didn't come automatically with power seats. Now in the end, you know, I don't mind that ultimately, because power seats are expensive to repair. On that previous car that I've had, it cost me, even the switch went, and I think it was $300. So you know, at the end of the day, it's not a bad thing not to have. But you know, a little disappointed that the touring model at this price range and this price point and this option group didn't include power seats. Yeah, that's a bit of a nitpick, I agree. And for the final thing that annoys me about this car, again, because it's something that you use almost every day for 2 or 3 months of the year, i.e. the winter months where I live, and it's related to that damn super small windshield washer bottle. It's the windshield washer nozzles that in this car are on the blades. Now I've seen lots of other cars. I mean, sure, you probably had an uncle or an aunt or a mom or a dad who had a car that had the same thing, but it's really annoying, and for my case, I'm tall, so it's doing fine now because the windscreen is clean, but guess where it always leaves a line, and it's right here, right where I look. Now you can't see it here because the car is clean, but honest to God, every single time I drive this thing and I have to use them, if road grime and all that, it's right where I'm looking. Yeah, if I was a few inches shorter, it wouldn't be a problem, but it's one of those things that's mildly annoying, and you use it so damn much that it just drives you crazy. So, you know, I've had lots of Hondas. My S2000 sitting right there still. Those windshield wiper nozzles are great. It's got a big tank, fine. Totally get why Honda didn't do it, because, you know, water weighs a fair amount for its size. So blah, blah, blah. You don't add as much. You want to keep your weight down and get it. But man, those windshield washer nozzles in those things are terrible. I haven't tried to adjust them yet. I've adjusted all kinds of other ones, of course. So if any of you folks know how to do that on a car like this, or if you actually have a Clarity and you're trying to do that, please let me know, because honestly I just need to move it another 1/4 inch, maybe 1/2 inch higher, and then I'll get rid of that annoying streak that hits me right at eye level. So anyway, that's number 5, folks. Thanks so much. Well, there you have it, folks. 5 things I'm not hugely fond of in my Honda Clarity. 5 things I hate is probably a bit strong, but you know, things that annoy me, things that are kind of an inconvenience. You know, I've lived with the car for, I just hit 16,500 kilometers recently. You know, good seat time, good exposure, lots of time with the kids in the car, trunk space, all the rest of that stuff. And again, as I say, fundamentally, this thing is fantastic for what I bought it for. I really can't fault it beyond these minor inconveniences that I've talked about here. So clearly the net is a great car, and I'm really proud of, I'm happy with my purchase. Handful of things kind of annoying, you know, those are what hit me. You know, to me, annoyance is a multiplier of how annoying the damn thing is versus how many times you use that damn thing. And in the case of the windshield washer and nozzles, clearly that's high in that one. Power seats, you hardly notice. Storage, you get used to that. Every time I go to the airport, I look for a place to put my credit card and stuff so I can pay when I leave. But other than that, great car. You know, please feel free to, as always, drop me any more questions, comments, anything like that. I'm happy to answer anything you folks might have, simply because you know, I'm probably one of the longer term Clarity owners out there, at least of the hybrid, plug-in hybrid model. So, you know, whatever you folks want to know, please feel free. And as always, if you've made it this far, I appreciate that. And if I could be so bold as to say, you know, I put some effort into these things. I really want to do it again. I want to do it more. So if you throw me a like and a subscribe, that does nothing but encourage me to make more. And on the other side of that, maybe I can afford to buy some better gear so you don't just see my big face in the camera here. And apparently I have some lighting issues. So anyway, as I say, thanks for watching. I always appreciate all this support. I appreciate every minute you folks watch. And if you could throw me a subscribe, that would be great. All the best, and hey, happy holidays. And you know what? It's that time of year. So all the best in 2019 to all of you, from my house to yours. Take care, everyone. Thanks.